I've already screened the 2 trailers to my viewing audience. Okay, so for the first trailer, Requiem for a Dream, what do you find appealing about the trailer?
I like the soundtrack. I think that makes it quite an exciting thing to watch, and the fast images look appealing.
What about you?
It kind of just makes you want to find out more because they only give you a few snippets here and there.
Like teasers?
Yeah, kind of. But I wouldn't say it was really appealing, but it was kind of a lot of different things going on. There was an awful lot going on there.
Like the fast editing pace. So, are the intertitles of the well-known director important to your engagement in the trailer?
Not really. I'd watch anything if it was good. It doesn't matter who's directed it.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I didn't really notice that too much in the trailer.
So is there anything that stands out the most to you, like for instance the sound, the editing pace, the characters in the film, like would you identify with them or find out more about them, or the cinematography, which is like the camera movements?
I thought for me the memorable bit was the pills. That was the bit because that was a kind of image and it was really clear, you could understand it, it wasn't lots of people running and shouting.
That's good as well because it's a drug genre film.
The pills were the thing because that was a reoccurring theme at the beginning, I think in the middle maybe, and I think at the very end, and that was the thing that kind of tied it all together.
Yeah, and it looks different images of the old women and then the young people, so you're not really quite sure what the story, but as Mark said, the pills sort of are the linking.
Yeah.
Well, that was the overriding theme. I thought, the pills. It was something that was very memorable because it was red, green, orange, something like that. That was the real thing that I remember. So that was a really strong message.
So in the trailer, this is England, the second trailer. So what did you find appealing about that trailer? Because that's a bit different to The Requiem for a Dream.
I think the subject matter looked interesting. You could see it was about England, about the era where skinheads were rising up against the Thatcher government or trying to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure it was appealing. It told you a little bit about the film, about what was going on there, but there wasn't anything that kind of really appealed in the sense that you kind of were told an awful lot. It just gave you snippets of the story, really.
Yeah. There was lots of reviews and ratings in that trailer compared to the other one. Like Total Film says this is the best film in the year and stuff. Would that persuade you to go and see it more if they had those kind of things in?
Not for me, not necessarily, because often things like that are blown out of proportion. It may be good for some people, but not others.
I think it would maybe make me think, it must be good if it's got good reviews.
Okay. And then finally, what stood out most to you in that trailer?
For me, it was the little kid who wanted a friend, but they slowly dragged him in to become one of them. I think that was the most appealing thing, really. Not appealing, the thing that stood out for me more than anything else, it was the little kid that you feel sorry for at the beginning, but at the end, you kind of think, well, he's just turned into one of them, which is a bit thuggish.
Yeah, the same, the boy sort of looks the main character, but also you see the Indian guy, that you just see his face and you wonder why he's really there when skinheads don't like.
Well, he's getting abused, isn't he? Because they don't like Indian people, so they're attacking his shop.
Okay, well the next part is film magazine covers, and I've got 4 here for you to look at. This is the first one, that's Empire Magazine's front cover.
Yep.
And that's one of the most established film magazines. And then that's Total Film, which is another one they're sort of up against each other. That one. And then these are independent ones, like this one's Little White Lies film cover. And then this one is Sight and Sounds film magazine cover. And then if you just want to browse through those, they're just on the tabs at the top. And then I'm just going to ask you some few questions about them. Like, for instance, what do you like and dislike about each of the front covers? Like, so if we start with Empire.
Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah, what do you like and dislike about that magazine front cover?
You think it was a bit of a lads' mag, actually, the way they've done the typography and the layouts. I know you can tell straight away because it isn't, but it is a bit sort of. It's a bit like one of these sort of other magazines that maybe 16 to 18-year-olds read.
Men mostly read film magazines. They have a big.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like anyway. It doesn't really tell you much about it.
What do you think? I think it isn't really as a messy, female. It looks.
Yeah, it's very.
The only thing, yes, I recognise the main characters, so that might make you think, oh. Yeah. Have they got a new film out?
What about the masthead, which is the title of the film, and all the cell lines? Do they?
You can't really see them.
No, they're messy. The masthead's good. You can see that, and well, I guess you may know it's Empire, but you can't see the P. But the rest of it's really messy below there. Yeah, you see X-Men, that's it. But the rest, certainly this size, maybe if it was 1-to-1, you'd see more. But it's still very messy. They've they've crammed as much in as you can.
Is there anything you like about the cover, apart from the actor?
Not really.
No, it wouldn't put you off, but it doesn't kind of make you want to look at it.
Okay, let's move on to total film then. What about that from cover? Because that's quite similar.
It's a bit neater in terms of you can see it's got less type on the cover.
Yeah, it's much easier to get around. I mean, I'm just scanning all the headlines there now, and it's so much easier to take in what they're telling you. You know, or even the small stuff and the stuff at the bottom. It's much easier to take on board everything. Less cluttered.
Read the title.
Yeah, and I quite like the picture, the way they've kind of used the picture to cover the whole page, or the subject matter rather than the previous one, which was just a man.
Yeah. What about the next one, Little White Lies?
That looks like a specialist magazine. You know,
yeah,
it's done in a very kind of specialist kind of way, very minimal, but with a really, even the photography is kind of quite different.
So do you think that's quite attractive?
Yeah, it's kind of attractive if you're someone who wants to explore something off the beaten track.
But do you think it's more appealing because it's something like a form of a secret club? If you buy that magazine, you're sort of more just like higher than everyone else, you're more superior, you know more.
So I think it would appeal to people who are a bit film snobs. It wouldn't appeal to the main public that just go for fun.
But for this film, do you think that would go like the films that I'm going to do, like the drama genre? Do you think that would go?
Well, it depends on your market. If you want a mainstream market, then no, it wouldn't appeal. But if you want a film
market,
buff
market,
what
do you prefer?
I would prefer.
This is a bit extreme. I would prefer the other one.
Total
film. That's a bit more middle of the road, but maybe it just needs to have a slightly more arty. You know, maybe White Lies is almost a bit too extreme. That could be a music magazine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to know going to film.
Sight and Sound then, last.
Sight and Sound. God, that looks a bit like not Reader's Digest. It looks a bit boring, actually. It looks a bit old. It looks a bit old, doesn't it?
Sight and Sound, to me, that would look like it's selling electrical goods. You know, those magazines.
It looks
like National Geographic or something like that. It doesn't look like a film magazine. It looks maybe for old people, for who can't hear or see properly or something like that. It just looks a bit. It looks a bit corporate. It looks almost American. It doesn't look. It doesn't appeal to me at all. The cover. It looks boring.
Okay.
I wouldn't know what that was about.
No, I wouldn't know what it was about either.
So, which one appeals to you the most then? Is that the total film?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if I had to choose one, well, I'm thinking commercially here. Total Film to me appeals more commercially, but Little White Lies, I like the design of it, but would I want to look at it at all? I like the design, but maybe it's a bit too extreme. So maybe a combination of the two. That's my view.
Yeah, me too, because yes, you know exactly what you get in a Total Film. You know it's a film magazine. It doesn't look too masculine.
It looks a bit more like a magazine as well.
The other one looks nice, but you wouldn't necessarily look at it on the shelf and think that's a film magazine.
Yeah, it's also quite masculine, the image on the front. I don't think many women have picked that up.
So how important is the main image to you? Do you think that's the big drawing
magazine?
point? Yeah, like the main image, like there's on that one, Johnny Depp, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's not so much the person, it's the way it's presented.
Yeah. But this is a free magazine, so it doesn't really matter. You're going to pick it up and flick through it and throw it away. It's a throwaway item. I'm not spending money on it, so actually I'm not going to be bothered because I'm not going to, subscribe to it.
Yeah, these are.